Hello everyone, it's Jen. Welcome back to another YouTube video. Today I'm creating 5 cards using the Sunny Studio Spring Showers stamp set and the Spring Scenes stamp set. So here's a close-up look at the stamps. These little cuties are just so sweet. The little characters with all the little accessories, and then I thought this scene stamp was really interesting as well. So I thought today I would share with you my process of how I get started when I want to make multiple cards. So first of all, I go ahead and stamp the images out onto some cardstock. Today I'm using some 80-pound Nina paper, and I used my Fawn jet black ink and colored these up with some Copic markers. So once I have these all colored, I go ahead and I bring in my gel pens, both my white and black, the white gel pen and the black glaze pen, and just add some details to my images. So for some of them, I'm just adding some black to their eyes to make them stand out, and then with my white gel pen I'm going to add some polka dots onto some of the little girls' dresses, some stripes onto the shirts, and then some highlight lines as well. And with the eyes I go in with the black glaze pen, and then I add a little bit of white detail on top of that once it's dried. Now for this little image, I didn't really like the way it was colored, so I added some polka dots to the closed umbrella. And then once I have all the little details finished here, I can go ahead and cut these out using my brother's scan and cut. So I'll show you that up close a little bit here in a second. I just add one sheet into the scan and cut at a time. And I do add some washi tape just to make sure it doesn't move around, but you do kind of have to take that at your own risk, as it's not really recommended to do that, but I don't seem to have a problem. So here's the scan and cut at work, and now all of my images are cut out. So my next step is to go ahead and to group them all into a little container here. This is just the top of a chocolate box. And so I just lay out the images that are the same, and then sometimes I'll pair the ones that I know that I want to use on one card. So I also colored up some of the little scene images here from the spring scenes. And then I've gone ahead and I've cut out 5 of my panels. So this just helps me get a sense of how I might want to create some of the cards. So I'm going to show you 3 here, and I just take the little container here with all my images and I start playing. So if I'm going to pre-plan cards, this is kind of how I get my inspiration. I just start seeing what I might like together. Now, interestingly, these 3 layouts don't make it as 3 of the cards, but I thought I would leave in this process in case you wanted to see how I pre-plan some of my multiple card videos. And this will also give you some added ideas in addition to the 5 cards that I'm creating today. So those trees are also from the Spring Scenes stamp set as well. And then all these little flowers and butterflies are from the Spring Showers stamp set. So we're going to jump into card number 1, and I wanted to use that long scene with the bench and the little post lamp. So I'm going to go ahead and create my background here using a cloudy border stencil. This one's from MFT, but you can use any one that you have in your stash. And I'm just using some broken China Distress Oxide ink here with a makeup brush. And I'm just laying this down onto my cardstock. This is some Bristol Smooth cardstock. I'm not really concerned about getting a smooth blend here because I go over afterwards and blend out the entire panel just so the clouds don't look as white. So I love these little spring scenes. You can see as I'm laying this onto my card panel, which is cut at a standard A2 size at 4 1/4 by 5 1/2, that it actually overhangs the A2 size card, which is great because then you can place it how you want it and just trim off the sides, and it gives a really seamless look to your card. I'm going to lay out some of the accessories here, the little butterflies and the flowers, and I'm going to add these to my scene. When I glued down the the scene border, I made sure not to put any adhesive to the top so that I could tuck some of these tulips behind it, and that just gives it a seamless look. And I'm going to add one of the little guys here to the right hand side of the card. So with my scene cards, I do play around with placement quite a bit, just trying to see where I want particular images and to really kind of build the scene from the back to the front. I find that the easiest. So you can see here I'm just going to add these tulips with some liquid glue, and my liquid glue of choice is the Art Glitter Glue. The name is a little bit misleading. It has nothing to do with glitter, but the fine tip steel top of that glue just is amazing. It allows you to get into the tiniest areas, and I've been working with this glue now for several months and absolutely love it. So I'm going to start working on my larger images here. You can see I have some of them popped up on some foam tape, and I'm using my new jewel picker, which a number of you recommended in a recent video when I was asking what you use to pick up your embellishments and tiny little images for your cards. So there were a number recommended, but the jewel picker was the easiest for me to get through Amazon Canada, and I have to say I'm loving it. It was perfect for these tiny little images. So thank you to all of you who left a recommendation. Again, just going to add some of the elements. I'm spacing out the clouds here. I love these clouds in the stamp set. There are 3 different sizes, a large one, a medium, and then a smaller size cloud. Now you can see here I don't really recommend using the jewel picker to add glue to the back of the image. I would do what I'm doing here and add the glue to the card panel and then lay the image down. Less chance of having the image drop and spread glue where you don't want it. So to finish off this scene, I'm just going to add some of the little flowers to the little hills in the scene border. And then I felt like I needed another cloud here just to fill up that empty space to the middle section of the card. And once I get everything in place, I will trim off the sides of the cloud that are overhanging. And then I can go ahead and work on the sentiment. And there's a number of sentiments in the stamp set. For this card, I'm using the one that says fluttering by to say hi. And I'm going to place that down to the bottom right-hand side of the card where this looks like a little sidewalk or a walking path. And I thought that the sentiment fit perfectly there. So I am going to stamp that up using my Versafine Clair Nocturne ink. It's my favorite ink for sentiments. It's so crisp and it stamps beautifully. So if you're looking for a really good ink to stamp your sentiments, I would recommend this one. So once I get that done, I can go ahead and add some final embellishments. I'm using some Nouveau Glaze here. This will dry clear. It looks a little bit cloudy when you first put it on, but it'll give some dimension and shine to the images that you place it on for your cards, which I really like. So there's card number 1 complete, and then we can move on to card number 2. So for card number 2, I'm just doing a really soft ink blended background here using the tumbled glass. This is one of my favorite go-to easy backgrounds, and I just wanted to have a hint of the blue to make it look like the sky, but I want my images to really stand out here, so I didn't want a background that overpowered the images. I thought it would be really cute to have these 3 little kiddos here floating in the sky, playing with their kites. So I'm just kind of having them floating in various directions, hanging on to their kites. I thought the position of them with their hands out just lent to this really cute, fun card. I do have all of these images popped up on some foam tape, and I'm just positioning them so that the 3 kites kind of create a triangle, so to speak, just to kind of frame the card and to bring your eye in towards the kites. So you can see here just playing with placement a little bit, making sure to get them where I want them. I want to make sure that their hands are overlapping on the kite strings. And then I'm going to add some clouds here to finish off our sky scene. So if I'd thought about this, it might have been a little bit easier to add the clouds before I added the images, but I'm able to tuck them behind the images just fine. I am spreading out the clouds here just to create a more robust scene, filling in some of those gaps where there's lots of space on the card. For the top left, I'm going to add 2 clouds. And again, I'll have a couple of them just overhanging a little bit, and I will trim those off. Now with this last one, I'm going to cut off quite a bit here to the right-hand side once I get this one down in the center. I was really happy that I was able to place that behind the yellow kite fairly easily. So once I add this one to the right-hand side, I will cut off quite a large piece of that cloud, and then I'll add that to the left-hand side of the card, and that will just make it look like the clouds are moving. So it's a great tip for making a scene card to cut off some of the images, and it creates movement on your cards. For the sentiment, I'm using the simple little high that came in the stamp set, and I thought that was cute. And then for this card, to finish it off, I'm going to add some of my Nuvo shimmer pen onto the white areas of the kite and the clothing, and then added it to some other areas on the clothing as well. For the clouds, I'm bringing in some Nuvo White Blizzard. This has some glitter in it. It's really pretty. So I'm just adding that to the top outline of all the clouds, just to add a little bit of added detail to the card, and it just provides a lot of interest. So once I get that complete, card number 2 will be done, and we can move on to card number 3. I'm bringing in a Christmas paper pad here. This is the Sunny Studio Holiday Cheer, and I was able to find a couple of the papers that weren't Christmas related at all. So I'm using the blue polka dot and the green polka dot. I've gone ahead and cut out a stitched circle here, which will be the focal panel for my card. And then you see here I'm using a Grassy border. This one happens to be by Heffy Doodle. And then I also trimmed out that fence border from the spring scenes with the stitched circle as well. So once I get this in place, I realize that that white space in between the fence isn't quite giving me the look that I want. So you'll see how I fix that. I did have a little bit of white space on the grass as well here. So I just went ahead and used my marker to fix that up, and then I'm going to overlay that fence and the grass with this green pattern paper here. So to add some fun elements to this focal panel, I'm adding 3 of the trees to the background, and then I'm going to have this sweet little girl here to the center of our stitched circle. I love the little characters in this stamp set. They're adorable, and I did color them up with different skin tones just to get different looks with the images. I am going to add a few more clouds to this little scene as well. Like I said, I loved these clouds. I loved the shape of them, and I just thought they created the perfect feeling for a spring scene card. So originally on this one, I thought I was going to use 3 clouds, but it just ended up being too many in the end. So I finished this one just using 2 of the clouds. I'm going to place that last tree down, and then I'm going to add some foam adhesive to the little girl, and I'll center her onto the focal panel here, and here's where I'm going to bring in my BG marker. This was the one I thought would match the background pattern paper the best. And I'm going to go ahead and color in those white spaces in between the fence posts to have it look like the sky is in the background and not bright white. So I think this is a really nice fix for that. I did get a little bit of that blue marker onto her, and I will fix that up here near the end of the card. I went ahead and used my corner rounder for the two bottom sides of the card base. I think that just brings a soft look to the card, and it also ties into the circle element. And to finish off this card, I'm going to add 3 of the tulips. I did move around that purple one so it was closest to her, given that her clothing had the yellow and pink in it. I wanted those to be a little bit further away from her so they don't get lost in her clothing. I absolutely love the way this card turned out. Such a clean and simple scene card with just building the scene onto the stitched circle. I did add a little butterfly to fill in that space in the top portion of the circle. And then I'm going to go ahead and I'm going to work on my sentiment. And the sentiment for this card reads, "You brighten my day." Just trying to line that up. I'm going to center that underneath the circle as much as I can using my stamping platform here, just in case I don't get a good image on the first try. I'm going to stamp that one more time just to darken the ink, and then we're pretty much good to go here for the final details. So I'll bring in my Nuvo shimmer pen, which I pressed too hard and a big glob came out, so I just fixed that by taking a clean paper towel. Then I can go ahead and add the shimmer to some of the elements here on the card. Now here to fix up where I got the blue marker on her, I'm just using my white gel pen, and you can't even tell once that dries. I thought I'd add a little butterfly here just to the left-hand side of the sentiment, seeing I had so many of these cute little butterflies already cut out and ready to go. So moving on to card number 4, I wanted to do a spring shower themed card, seeing there was lots of the umbrellas in this stamp set. So I'm bringing out my tumbled glass Distress Oxide here, and I'm just going to again create a soft blended background near the top portion of this card panel. Now I wanted it to look like she was standing in a puddle, but I didn't have a puddle, so I'm using this plate from the Heffy Doodle Happy Snappy Crocs stamp, and I think in the end it worked well to look like a puddle. So I encourage you to kind of see what you have in your stash when you're creating scenes and seeing if you can get a little bit creative with what you have. So I'm going to add the little chick umbrella, which is so sweet, to her hand. And I'm just going to also add some liquid glue behind the top of the umbrella so it adheres to the top of her head. And then I'm going to add the clouds here. Now again, I had every intention to have 3 clouds, just because rule of thirds, you hear me say this, that there are sort of rules in terms of what's visually appealing, but sometimes I throw those rules to the wind if it's just not working. So you'll see here, although it was my intention to have all 3, I end up with 2 because ultimately I think that's what looked better once I was getting all these elements in place. So I'm going to play with the placement here a little bit, and the 3 looks a little bit better as I'm looking at it through the camera here, but when I was creating it and had it in front of me, it just wasn't working. But I'm persistent and I'm not wanting to give up on that 3rd one, but finally I realize it's just not going to work because I want to be able to add some raindrops under the clouds, and if I had 3 of them, I wouldn't have been able to add those little raindrops. So I'm going to go ahead and adhere the little puddle under her down straight to the card panel with some liquid adhesive. Same with the clouds. get those into place. I'm actually not going to pop her up on foam tape. I'm going to adhere her straight down as well. So this will be a really clean and simple flat card that will be easy to mail. And you can see here I'm still trying to get that third cloud on to this card panel. I do eventually give up. And then once I get her in place, I'm going to bring in the little raindrop stamps. So there's quite a number of different sized raindrops. And so I'm going to add these underneath the clouds, and then I'll bring in one of my Copic markers that I used to color the little puddle, and I'll color in those raindrops to match. And I think that looks really cute, and it ties in the blue nicely from that puddle, and it also ties into the ink blended background. Now those raindrops didn't stamp out as crisp as I would have liked them, so I'm just bringing in my Memento Tuxedo black marker here and going over those images. And then I added some little dots for her cheeks, which in the end I wish I hadn't done that because it just was overpowering with the polka dots on her dress. I think it would be really cute if I had left her dress just solid with the coloring, but it was a little bit much with all those polka dots, so I kind of wish I didn't do that, but you don't win them all. So I think it still looks cute. It's not how I would have liked her to end up looking. So for this sentiment, I'm using Showering You with Love. And again, I'm just going to stamp that out with my Versafine Clair Nocturne ink underneath her. I'll stamp that a couple times just to ensure that it's nice and dark and black. And that will finish it for this card. I do add a little flower here to her hair. I thought maybe it might be small enough to put as an embellishment on her dress, but it was too large. So I'll just add that to her hair. And then I'm going to add some of my Nouveau glaze here to the raindrops, as well as the little puddle to make it look like it's wet, which will be great to kind of give it that feel of the rain. And then again, I'm bringing in my Nouveau White Blizzard for a little glitter and shine for the clouds, and then the nose of the little chick umbrella. So for card number 5, we're going to create a more elaborate scene here. I'm just using some cardstock from my stash, a piece of light aqua color and then this green color. I cut out the green panel with a border die from the Palm Tree Borders by Fawn. And I believe I used a stitched rectangle die for both the blue cardstock and the green cardstock. And I'm going to use 3 of these little kids here and 3 of the umbrellas to create this little scene. These umbrellas are adorable. The little panda and the cow and then the little chick. They're just so sweet. So I'm going to start off here building from the back up as I normally like to do. So I'm going to get those clouds into place, and then I'm going to adhere the umbrellas to my little characters just to ensure that they don't move around while I add them to the card panel. And then just keep building this scene here. So I'm going to lay down the 2 clouds in the center. And then I'm going to go ahead and work on the little guy here to the right hand side once I get this final cloud into place. I'll leave the center one for the last just so that I can see where I'm going to have this character to the right hand side, and then I can fill up that middle space a bit better. Wasn't quite sure how I wanted that one umbrella to be, so I do play around with the placement of that a little bit as well. And then you'll see me, I'll work on the little girl in the center. So I would love to know if you enjoy seeing multiple card videos with one stamp set. I know when I asked recently over on my Facebook page, if what kind of cards you wanted to see me make next, and overwhelmingly you all said spring and Easter cards, so that's what I'll be working on. I also just thought it would be nice to create more than one card so that I can give you different options and ideas for how to use your stamps. I also really appreciate being able to get more use out of my stamps and to be able to create more than one card with them. So if you like having the multiple cards in one video, please give this video a like and let me know in the comments below if you'd like me to keep doing this. And I'm just going to keep creating the card here. So you can see this scene is a little bit more elaborate, and once I got the larger images on, although I normally work from front to back, I felt like there was a lot of space in the back of this card, so I brought in those tulips again to go behind the hill. And here you can see all the images that I still have left, even though I've pretty much created 5 cards already. So I'm still able to make a number of cards with those images that I have left over. I had a whole bunch of these flowers here, so I do go ahead and add them to the hillside. For this sentiment, I'm going to add that to the top right hand side, and I'm stamping out "You Brighten My Day." I thought that was really sweet. And then I am going to come in and add a few raindrops here, and again color that up with some of my blue Copic marker here. So even though it's raining, they're happy and it seems like a bright rainy day. So I thought the sentiment fit nicely for this. To finish that off, I'm going to add one little butterfly. And now I'm going to slow down the video here and show you all 5 cards. I hope you really enjoyed this video and that it was helpful to take a look at my process for how I get started when I'm making multiple cards with one stamp set. I really loved these 2 stamp sets and had a lot of fun creating these cards. So thanks for joining me today. Have a fantastic day. Thank you for all your love, your comments, your liking of my videos. It all really helps my channel. So I appreciate you all. Have a fantastic day. Bye.